And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at the X-Files board game. Now this is a game that caused quite a bit of stir when it was released. I thought, I didn't know people were that interested in the X-Files, but boy was I wrong. People really do like the X-Files, even though the TV show and the movie are many years in our past, but it certainly has a cult following, and I've met many people who are big fans of the show. I watched a few of the episodes myself, found them a little creepy, but I understand the draw to it. When I was more excited, because I found out the game was designed by Kevin Wilson, who's probably best known for his reworking of Richard Launius's Arkham Horror. He also did some work on Doom and Descent. So very excited to see what would be involved here. Is this going to be one player versus other players? Let's take a look. Now there's two teams in this game. One team is the sinister cigarette smoking man who has this gigantic shield where he can hide his cigarette tokens and any evidence tokens that he finds. The other side is the agents, and each agent gets their shield here. Here we have Scully and Skinner and Krychek maybe and Mulder. Sorry, all I know is Mulder and Scully. But anyway, these are the good guys. Each of them has a badge. They have a special ability that they can do. They have two things that they're strong in and one thing that they are weak in. Everyone's strong in aliens, or at least in science or whatever that is. But like, for example, Scully here is weak with guns and such. So they're all going to start in the northeast. What they're trying to do is they're trying to assemble this picture here. I want to believe. Each time they get enough piece of evidence, they can build one of these pieces. When they get all 9, they win. Now, what you really can do is just keep track of it over here on this track and keep, until you get to 9. But hey, this is here for flavor. Now, what players are going to do at the beginning of the game, there's going to be some files that are open. You're going to draw a file, and it's going to tell you where that file goes. This one's to south. This tells you a little bit about it. Quagmire. Okay, flavor text, flavor text, flavor text. Then this tells you how difficult it is, a 6. And then a special ability here. This one's extra difficulty for solved X-Files in the regions. And then the number here shows how much evidence, how many pieces of evidence it gives you. So this goes in the south. We draw another one. Goes in the west. We draw another one. Northeast. We draw another one northeast, but we already have one northeast, so we discard that. We draw another one south. There's actually 2 spots for them in the south. And that's it. This is a 4-player game, or 4 good guys at least, and 4 investigators. So we'll put out 4 of them. And if we're playing a 2-player, if there was 2 investigators, we put out 2 of them, etc. Now, these agents are going to, on their turn, the first thing they're going to do is they can either move to an adjacent region, which means you can move pretty much anywhere, just you can't go from northeast to west in one move. Or they can trade a card with someone who's next to them. Agents are going to have a handful of cards, and these cards have different symbols which match their strengths and weaknesses, and different things on them. One of the actions players can do on a turn is play a card, and it always costs 1 of these influence tokens. Players will have influence tokens, and they can take no actions to draw more influence tokens. But they're free if it's one of their strengths, and it costs an extra influence token to play if it's their weakness. So most of the time, players are going to move and or trade tokens, then they're going to rest or play a card. Most of the time, their cards are going to say something like this here: investigate 2, wounds add 1 each instead of subtracting. Or let's see, here's an ally. When you play an ally card goes up here into ally and gives everybody a special ability for the rest of the game. Here's one that simply says investigate 5. Now, since most of the cards say investigate, you're down somewhere and you're trying to solve the quagmire and investigate 5. And this shows here a science symbol, which doesn't really matter, but matters for how much it costs to play the card. So I'll put 5 tokens on here, 5 of these investigation tokens. Now, the number on here is 6. If someone else came in here and put the last token or more on it, then this would be solved. We would turn it over to show that the file is now closed, and then we would draw from the bag, as the investigators, 2 tokens, because this one's worth 2. Now in this bag are all the different evidence tokens, and we would draw 2 of them. And we look, this one's a value of 1, that's a value of 1. They're either 1s or 2s. once we have evidence equal to the number of players. So this is a 4-player game. If we have 4 evidence, we can trade that in to get one of the pieces of the puzzle. You get all 9 pieces, you win the game. And that's mostly what players are going to do. They're going to also move around and do different things, but they're mostly going to try to solve these cases by putting evidence tokens on them. When it's the cigarette smoking man's turn, he is also going to draw from the bag. He's going to draw from the bag 1 token for each of these that hasn't been solved. So there's, let's say they only solved the 1, he would draw 3 tokens. He's going to look at the values on these tokens, but he's going to keep them secret. So there's a value of 3. Over here, he's a tracker, which shows the value of his tokens behind his screen. So you can see it's once it goes over 5, he'll move it down to 6 through 10 and so on. So players can keep track of how much he has, and if he ever gets 25 evidence or more behind his screen, then he wins the game. Now, after he does that, if he pulls any token from the bag, he's going to throw a cigarette token in the bag. Later on, when agents solve a case, if they draw a cigarette token, well, tough luck for them. They don't get one. If the cigarette man draws the cigarette tokens when he's drawing evidence, he just throws them back in the bag. Ha 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 ha. Now, he will, after his turn's over, he's going to replace any files. Let's say where they solved 2 files in a turn, he'd put 2 of them back out. And the syndicate player is going to get, also he's going to get influence. He's going to get 1 for each enemy player in the game, each investigator. And then he's going to spend that to put cards down. Not only costs 1 to put a card out, but there's many different spots you can put cards, and they're connected to specific cases. So you can see this case here in the south has 2 that are connected to it. The case up in the northeast has only 1, while the case down here in the west has 3 attached to it. Now this costs 1 influence to throw these cards out. To flip the card over costs 5. And these cards can do all sorts of things. Like, for example, this one causes an agent who is investigating this to take a wound. Agents can get wounds. They can't ever really die, but every wound that an agent has subtracts 1 from their investigate cards. So they can have a maximum of 5 wounds. That's kind of ridiculous at that point, because if you're investigating, they have to rest and get rid of their wounds. Here's one. That's the Men in Black. Here they come, says Will. When revealed, any ongoing political investigation is canceled. So if the player used a political card to investigate, I could pay 3 influence, flip it over, and show that it's canceled. Here, I can choose an agent, look at their hand, discard a card from it. Here, this cancels a conflict resolution. Here, when it reveals, I add 2 cigarette tokens to the evidence bag. So the players don't know exactly what these are, although Mulder has a special ability that lets him look at some of them. So when they go investigate something, there's always the chance that the syndicate player, cigarette smoking man, is going to turn over a card and mess you up. And then it goes back to the good guy's turn. And you just go back and forth like that. He's going to be drawing cards and playing them on the board, using his influence tokens to flip them. Players are going to be trading cards around, going and investigating these different cases, and trying to solve enough of them to get enough evidence tokens so they can buy enough puzzle pieces. Eventually, one team will win the game. I wonder how many people watched this video and were kind of surprised at how the game played out. Because I'll tell you, we were really thrown for a loop. I don't know exactly what we were expecting, but we were expecting to go in and find some grandiose game with all kinds of mysteries to solve and everything. And in essence, the X-Files is an incredibly simple cooperative, or, well, I'm calling it a co-op game because it's some players, but it's actually a team game, some players versus all. But it's incredibly simple. In fact, really close to the light end of the scale. It looks complicated. The cards have tons of text on them, but 90% of that text is just flavor text and involved. Now, some of the people I played with who were X-Files fans thought that the theme here was lacking, that it was just pasted on. Others liked the artwork and the text on the cards, and I thought that was pretty cool myself. I thought the graphic design for the most part was good, although some of the symbols I thought maybe were a little small. Others were kind of surprised at how simple the game is, and I need to keep emphasizing that. It's simple, simple game. This is a game that you just throw, the bad guy's trying to trip you up, and you're going out and trying to play cards to investigate things. I can explain this game in like a minute or two, really, when I'm teaching it. It's so simple to get into and play. Now, I will say that the shield for the syndicate, this is really ridiculous. I mean, it does tell you what you can do, but I look like a dungeon master when I'm sitting at the table. Roll a 4. a 4. Roll a d4. So the game is fairly simple. And it seems like there's a lot going on, but you're just basically, like I said, you have that puzzle piece and you don't even need that, but it's there. It takes up actually more table space than it's worth. But we have a big thing. Ooh, look what piece I found in the puzzle. Where does this go? The special abilities of the investigators are interesting, although the rulebook tells you that Mulder should probably go first and Scully should probably go last to their special abilities, and that's true. Man, okay. Where do I stand on this one? This one's tough for me because I think I'm approving this game, and it's fun, but just over that line in a sense. I mean, I like it, but I almost find it too simple for my taste. But if I have people who are new to gaming and they like the X-Files, this is a great thing. This is like something I could see being sold on Target and people getting into it and playing it. In fact, this rule book, which is fairly lengthy, we're talking like 16 pages, really is awfully long and complicated looking for how simple the game is. This game could be taught very quickly. I think a lot of gamers are going to be disappointed because it's not like just rich and brimming with theme like it could have possibly been. So I know some people are going to highly dislike this game. I myself enjoyed it. Take it on a very light level. Me versus you. Boom, boom, boom. Let's blow this out. 45 minutes to an hour. That's it. Let's go on to the next game. Does it give everything that's in the X-Files TV show? Well, if you read every piece of text in the cards, probably. But other than that, I don't know that the game mechanisms bear out the X-Files. So this game is good. It's light. I think everyone expected something completely different, but take those expectations away, and you have a decent, light game. Dice Tower Judgment, approved. Sorry, I wanted to hit Mulder in the nose.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Zamknij drzwi!
There.